Yo, we step up in the scene, check your engine is clean. DPF guys got your ride smoking green. No block, no drag, just pure machine. Come show us your truck, we'll make it pristine. We just wanna know, can your diesel uphold? Bring something dirty, we'll
Okay, everybody. Hey, it is Sunday, October 20th, 2024.
Respect my authority.
And there we go. That's what I wanted. So thank you for joining us. And before we get started, make sure you subscribe to the DPF Guys channel on YouTube so you don't miss any of our future content. And if you can spend about 3/10 of a second, I'm holding the wrong remote, to tap the like button. Not only does that make me feel good, which I know is really important to you, the YouTube algorithm also really enjoys it. All right, so we are DPF Guys, and I am James, your DPF guy. We focus 100% on diesel aftertreatment services for anything with a diesel engine and an emissions system. Most of our customers are fleets, some of them big fleets, some are little fleets, but also mechanics, shops, dealerships, and of course, our favorite customer is the owner-operator who is keeping us fed, clothed, warm, and cool, and everything else every single day. Do you know that the commercial truck drivers in the U.S. drive 300 billion miles a year to deliver goods and services, or the goods that we do that we need to keep alive, right? And if you are going to basically, that would mean that you could drive all the way to Jupiter and back, 300 billion miles. So God bless you all. Really appreciate that. So anyway, so of course we do DPF equipment on trucks, but also passenger vehicles. I just got asked on on TikTok, which I will show you right here. We are live on TikTok as well. If you're not following me on TikTok, do so. I do a lot of videos there. And there's some questions coming in, and I will definitely take care of you guys and answer some of these questions. So hang tight. I've got a few questions to answer that came in throughout the week, and I'm going to do that quick, and then I'll focus 100% on you guys. Anybody watching me on TikTok right now that wants to check out the live on YouTube, just go to youtube.com/DPF Guys, and we should pop right up. Okay, onward, back at it. So if it is a DPF, we can clean it. Call or text us at 404-999-1361 for more information. Happy to help you out. And don't forget to drop your questions and thoughts in the chats throughout the session, no matter where you might be. Big disclaimer, little disclaimer, just a disclaimer. Always talk to your mechanic about any concerns you have with your engine or your truck. And any pricing discussed here may or may not apply to you and should only be used as a guideline and is not an official quote for any services by us or anybody else on the planet. Okay, let's get into this here. We've got 10 questions this week, which is just awesome. Our first question from our, actually this one came in via text. I've got a 2018 Freightliner M2 106 with a DD5, had it for 5 months. 217,467 miles when I bought it, and it has not asked for me to do a regen. Is this normal? Your truck is actually, is performing well. And I would say that the Freightliner M2, I just would say, first of all, welcome to the club of oddballs driving an M2 with a DD5. The DD5 is a bit of a rare bird, but it's a decent engine. While almost all diesel engines are 6 cylinders, believe it or not, that DD5 is only a 4-banger. Almost every M2 on the road has a Cummins 6.7, but there are a few DD5s out there, and that's not a bad thing. If you, in fact, if your truck had a Cummins engine, you'd have a bit more torque and horsepower, but you'd also be looking at spending $3,000 or more on new injectors plus labor in the next 30,000 miles or so, because the Cummins 6.7 in the Freightliner M2 or the International 4300 box trucks, which are basically the same thing, I also think there's a Ford F750 that has the same engine. Those engines, the injectors on those engines just fail like clockwork at about 250,000 miles. So, consider yourself lucky you've got that oddball engine in there. So no parked regen, not calling for a regen is a good thing. That means your truck is running well. I would recommend a good additive like Clean Air Fleet or Hot Shot Secret to help your DPF clean. Keep your DPF as clean as possible for as long as possible. But other than regular maintenance, you've got a bit of a unique truck, but a good truck. When the time does come to get your DPF cleaned, and you just have one DPF in that truck, unlike the bigger engines, because you actually have a little one box on that thing. And the bigger engines like the Detroit DD13s and DD15s do have 2 DPFs in them, so the costs are twice as much to get them clean. You want to call whoever is doing it, maybe we'd be doing it, and call them ahead of time to make sure that they have the clamps you need in stock. We do keep those in stock ourselves because we do see enough trucks where we do see DD5s, rarely but occasionally. But you'd be surprised how many shops and even dealerships are just unfamiliar with the DD5, and they may not have the clamps in stock, and it may take them a couple of days. Give them a heads up, let them get them in. So this is actually one of the times you should be glad that you don't have a Cummins. All right. And I'm going to kind of switch back and forth. Let's take a quick look at TikTok here. All right, friends, on TikTok, I had a couple of questions that snuck in here. Definitely, people on TikTok, share this with some people. Let's get some more people in here. All right, pin this comment. Do you ever give any DPF from VW TDI cars? Any thoughts on that? I was a TDI driver back from like 2006. I had a Jetta TDI, put over 300,000 miles on that, wore out the transmission, engine was still going strong. After that, I had a Passat TDI that I sold back to Volkswagen and paid off a credit card with the money they gave me. And then after that, I had 2 TDI Jetta wagons. So yes, I've got some TDI experience. I always tell people that if they've got a passenger vehicle, especially a Volkswagen, that has any DPF issues, to contact the dealership, give the dealership your VIN, and ask them if there's any warranty or recall or anything that they need to know about. Enough time has gone by that I think the odds are probably not in your favor. But for the price of a phone call, and if it gets you a free replacement DPF, it's worth it. That being said, yes, those can be cleaned. And just give us a shout at 404-999-1361. Get us your VIN and what have you, and we can definitely talk more about that. All right, what else do we have from TikTok here? I don't want to miss all of your questions. You've been so patient. Thank you, everybody who joined. If you want to like this live, tap my big fat face a couple of times, and let's get those hearts going. All right, what do we got here? Okay, I've got a question. Hey, Brian Bond, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard, Brian. Where are you at today, Brian? Are you helping FEMA right now? Thank you for all the likes, man. Okay, I just saw this one come up a minute ago. I'm going to pin this one. X15 Cummins truck stays high idle when coming up to a red light, and I'm lost at what to do. Well, I mean, I'm wondering if it's just a programming issue. May not be. I mean, you're not getting anything that says high soot level or anything like that. That's one that I'm gonna put that one out there and see if I can get an answer from anybody in the forums that might know more about that. It might just be something, one of your settings is just not correct, because you can control, how high the truck idles and, all, what speed limits and things like that. I wonder if it's just an odd programming thing. And it sounds like it's driving you crazy. All right. Thank everybody who's joined. Okay, here's another good one. When the one box goes bad, this is a good one. When the one box goes bad, what actually goes bad on them? Now, a one box will normally not fail on its own. It normally needs help from a problem up in the engine. And it's normally overfueling or potentially low compression. And low compression, again, can cause inefficient diesel burn, and which can then leave unburned diesel in the exhaust stream, which then goes downstream, hits the DOC, and will keep the DPF under a high temperature longer than it than the one box likes to be. I say DPF, I mean the whole system. That's going to be the DOC, the DPF, and the SCR. Now, the DOC is normally really tolerant of higher temperatures because that's what it's designed to do. The DPF is pretty tolerant to higher temperatures as well. They will eventually crack. Low compression or injector issues will crack your DPF on a Detroit, but those Detroit DPFs are a little dainty. They can just kind of crack over time. But the SCR, the catalytic metals that are in the SCR, have a much lower vaporization or melting point than the catalytic metals that are in the DOC. And from what I understand from the Detroit diagnostics, if you see your SCR hit 1200 degrees or 1250, I've heard both numbers, but let's say over 1200 degrees Fahrenheit for any amount of time, that will damage or destroy your SCR. So normally it's something in the engine that will then cause the one box to fail. In fact, I should say normally it's basically that is the issue. Brian Bond, friend of the show, friend of the channel, and friend of DPF Guys, actually went through that in his 2016 Freightliner, and we replaced his one box, and he's been going strong. He's been running the additive and everything else. So that's kind of that. So had a code for high ash percentage. Now, the X15 after treatment will, if that DPF hasn't been properly cleaned, maybe that's the issue. But I don't know if the reason you got high idle is because of the ash percentage. Or maybe when they cleaned your DPF, nobody reset your ash accumulator, which is something that's an easy thing to miss. So before you start really spending a lot of money digging into that thing, I think it might be something simple. I would say that if you talked to the mechanic we work with, James Boshears, and could make your way to Atlanta, he could probably figure that thing out for you. Send me a direct message if you want me to text you the contact information from the mechanic, and then book a load to Atlanta and come visit. All right, let's make sure I haven't missed it. What is your opinion of the PACCAR DPF system's EPA 17? I have almost 650,000 miles. Basically, the PACCAR DPF system is a Cummins DPF system. I think there's one gasket and one clamp that's a bit different. And basically, PACCAR engines are Cummins engines just painted gray or green or whatever color they happen to be, not red. And the biggest difference is that the control modules for PACCAR are proprietary. They don't use the same software as Cummins. But otherwise, from the standpoint of the actual engine components and things like that, either identical to or very, very similar, almost interchangeable with Cummins. The after treatment, rock solid. And I would say, everybody I've seen that has got a Cummins X15 or a similar PACCAR, as long as you use a good additive like Clean Air Fleet, which I'll say 100 times, you should have no issue. So I would say, take care of your truck, do your maintenance, keep your air filters cleaned. And I guess if you have almost 650,000 miles, if you haven't gotten it cleaned yet, you're up there. You're probably due. And I would get that. If the truck calls for a parked regen, I would schedule a cleaning. Come to Atlanta, come see us. Okay, this is a great one. And the answer to this will be yes. How did I pin this? So there we go. Ding. Okay. Thanks. Have you ever seen a dock cracked or melted? Yes, I have. Now, something's got to go really wrong up in the engine to start melting stuff downstream. And, honestly, when it gets that bad, you're lucky that truck didn't start on fire. But no, I've seen it. I don't see docks cracked or melted that often. Usually it's something really goofy, like somebody put DEF in the diesel tank, does really bad stuff. Or if you got a melted SCR, that's normally, diesel in the DEF tank. Like we all like to have fun, but in that case, make sure you put it in the right hole. Let's see here. It has been reset. Oh, goodness. I don't know, man. Like I said, text me at 404-999-1361. Let's see if we can figure this thing out together. Okay, folks, I'm going to just scroll through this first really quick. That's what she said. Oh, what?
Alrighty then.
I love my new soundboard. What's a good one here? I like this one.
Daddy, chill.
Or,
can I get a radio check, please?
Or definitely follow the advice of Ricky Bobby.
Hey, I'm Ricky Bobby,
And I'm Cal Norton Jr.
urging you never to travel to Tijuana.
It's good advice. All right, let's get back to the YouTube here. And what do we have? Question number 2. Man, I tell you what, I pissed off a lot of people this week. Once in a while, it's kind of fun to do that. And so Terry Norris, 422 from TikTok. What about the railroad? Where's their DEF tanks? Locomotives, the big choo-choos on the electric diesels on the rails there, believe it or not, actually do have some kind of oddball EGR system. But you're right, they don't run SCR, they don't have a selective catalytic reducer, and they don't have DEF, like you and I do. What's also weird is that while the rail yard equipment, rubber tires, as I would call it, and that's going to be cranes, trucks, etc., they'll have full diesel emissions like any sort of over-the-road truck. The diesel-powered equipment that runs on the rails will just have a dock and an SCR. They're just doing NOx reduction. They're not actually capturing soot. Just one of those oddball exceptions for a specific industry and use case. And if you don't like it, write a letter to your congressman. Maybe they'll change the law just for you. All right. This is a long one. Question number 3, Jimmy Dean for real from TikTok. This is a short one. I've got a 2022 Freightliner that shutters on startup for just a second, and when it does, the plastic blue hose going into the cold air intake tries to collapse. I've replaced the charge air cooler. So my best guess is that you have a dirty air filter, maybe. I mean, it sounds like you might have already taken care of it. I think you would have. Or maybe something built a nest in your air intake somewhere. I would definitely check the air filter and then, really look to make sure there's nothing, someone didn't whack a tennis ball into your air filter somehow. And just make sure there's not something restricting the air intake. You may have a critter in there. Another thing is maybe is your turbo starting to hang up? But obviously something's causing that thing to really choke and collapse the hose. I just don't know what it would be. So I'm a bit stumped there. I've got a couple people I've asked about this weekend, and hopefully I kind of hear back and can get an answer to you. Question number 4 from Short Maxwell. Oh, this was the long one. We have many, also from TikTok, Short Maxwell. We have many full emissions heavy trucks, Peterbilt, Kenworth, Freightliner, Mack, you name it. Our highest miles trucks are only 5,000 to 7,000 miles per year. Oh my God, those things are not moving an inch. All short trips, obviously. Local delivery, so the trucks never actually run for more than about 45 minutes a trip. So this is a tough one. Taking short trips isn't necessarily horrible as long as you can get the truck on the road and stretch its legs for an hour or two at highway speeds regularly. If you truly just do those short runs, I'd recommend getting a diagnostic tool like OTR Performance. I'm not paid to say that, but it's one that works really well, has really good tech support, and do a forced regen on each truck on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. Of course, I'm in Atlanta, very close to the Atlanta airport, and which is the busiest airport in the world again. And all of the diesel vehicles that are on the tarmac need to be running all day long, because obviously if you've got a plane that's landed and somehow has to you've got a truck that's in the way of it, you need to be able to jump in there and hammer down and not worry about starting it. So these things just run all day long. And what the airport does is they just regen the trucks regularly. I'm not sure if they do it once a week, maybe once a day even. But the deal is, I would, like in your case, I would do a weekly or bi-weekly regen on those trucks. You probably do pretty well. I would also, you're definitely somebody who I'd say use an additive, don't even question it, and run Clean Air Fleet. If you got a bulk tank, I can talk to you about how you can even treat the fuel in the bulk tank, and that's going to improve your fuel economy a little bit, improve the combustion, increase your reliability, because there's really two ends of the extreme. One of them is a truck that's got a bazillion miles on it, and that'll cause it to wear out. The other one is where you have a truck that's not driven very much, and that can be just as hard on a truck, or even worse than a truck that's really driven hard. The same thing is true if you've got a high performance vehicle. There used to be, well, still is there, but when I lived in Wisconsin, not far from me in Neenah, Wisconsin, was a garage that serviced Ferraris. And people from all over the world brought their Ferraris in. I mean, he worked on Jay Leno's Ferrari, worked on like all these Saudi Arabian princes Ferraris. And I remember talking to him about maintenance, and he said, well, you need to budget, I think, was it 10% of the price of the vehicle every year on maintenance? And I'm like, well, what if you don't drive it? Same thing, is if you don't drive it, the belts get stiff and everything else. So I would, you're both ends of the spectrum here. And so a short run truck would benefit from Clean Air Fleet as well. If you want to learn about Clean Air Fleet, text additive, as always, to 404-999-1361, and I will talk to you more about that. All right, what do we got? That's number 4. Let's take a look at number 5. Oh, what exactly is wrong with the one box? Why can't it be repaired? And I like to say that there are 10 things that can go wrong with a one box, and we can fix 8 of them. So dirty filters, face plug DOCs, poisoned SCRs, coolant flooding, oil soaking, stripped bungs, exterior cracks, DEF buildup, so on and so forth. We can fix all that stuff. But if you have internal stress cracks, or even sometimes it'll kind of blow up inside, or a roasted SCR, there's really nothing that can be done, and the one box has to be replaced. The 2015 era Freightliners with the DD13 and DD15 engines were produced right off the assembly line with an incorrect or a hot fuel map, I've heard it referred to, that caused the engine to spray too much fuel into the cylinder, which in turn produced excessive heat downstream in the one box. For the most part, the DOC and DPF in the one box are fairly tolerant of higher than normal temperatures. And if the DPFs, and there are 2 of them, that's why it's plural, DPFs, fail due to temperature-related cracking, they can be replaced. It's not ideal, but you can replace them. They're designed to be replaced. The SCR, the selective catalytic reducer, on the other hand, will begin to fail almost immediately if the temperatures ever exceed 1200 degrees Fahrenheit. The SCR failure is not immediately noticeable. It's not like some sort of catastrophic failure, and will often make it seem like you have a bad NOx sensor or sensors, and then you replace your NOx sensors, then you may replace your DEF header, maybe your DEF pump, then your DEF injector, all with no success, other than your checking account is getting emptied. And the symptom I have people look for, if they tell me they got a 2014, 15, or 16 Freightliner, is pretty simple. The truck will run great if it's bobtail or lightly loaded on a flat road, but the moment you start heading up a grade with any sort of weight in the back, you get one or all the following codes: DEF quality, SCR efficiency, NOx conversion, or similar things, and you regen the truck, go back downhill, and everything's fine until you go back up a hill again. The only thing you can do at this point is replace the one box to fix the issue, or what you can do to kind of band-aid the issue, and this works sometimes, is you begin using an additive like Clean Air Fleet to try to reduce the amount of NOx produced by your engine to buy yourself more time. If your SCR is not completely failed, sometimes using a good additive, again, Clean Air Fleet, shameless plug, will cause the engine to run more efficiently, to burn the diesel fuel more efficiently and produce less NOx. And in turn, if your SCR is not completely boogered up, you can then, that might be enough to buy you several months and give you some time to save up the money for a new one box, which we do sell. All right, what's number 6? And this is from Chevy Boy 196 from TikTok. So what if the truck is deleted? Please DM me. I don't know if I'm going to DM you, Chevy Boy. So we can reverse deletes on many trucks and bring your emissions back into compliance. The cost for doing this vary widely depending upon what truck you have and what all needs to get done. But once we evaluate the truck, we can let you know exactly what needs to get done and do only what is necessary. So give us a call at 404-999-1361 and let's talk. All right, question number 7 from Krill Negabim from TikTok. Okay, 2016 Cascadia. I've got a 2016 Cascadia DD15, 750,000 miles. It just started doing exactly what you're describing. Do you guys sell good used one boxes? Doesn't make sense spending that much on new for old truck. Totally understand. But I'm sorry to say there is no such thing as a good used one box if you need one for a 2014, 2015, or 2016 Freightliner. They are all bad. All of them. They're all bad. And just imagine the expense. So you buy a used one and then put it in and then take it back off and buy another one. Don't bother. We do sell excellent new one boxes that come with new filters and have a 3-year unlimited mileage warranty. So text me your VIN to 404-999-1361, and I can give you an exact price and let you know availability and lead time. We usually have them in stock or can get them in 1 to 2 days if we are out of them. All right, we're almost to the end. TikTok people, hang tight. We're going to be right with you. Okay, number 8 from Sohai 22G, 2019 International LT with Cummins is cheap on repair, DEF, DPF, SCR, or expensive. And please tell me if it's good buy, if and with 400,000 miles on it or not. Okay, so the nice thing about Cummins is that you can replace each part. You can replace the DOC, the DPF, the SCR, and you can replace them all separately, but normally you don't have to. And at 400,000 miles, I suspect, my Kanagin tells me, that you're getting a fleet truck. And I also suspect that the dealership will tell you that they clean the DPF for you. And that is normally BS. They normally mean they did a parked regen. I guess that's a little nice, but they didn't clean the DPF. Fleet trucks are pretty well maintained, but I have never seen one where they've sold it with a clean DPF. They normally let them go before the DPF needs to be cleaned. And then what happens is people say, well, I bought this truck from Schneider, or I bought it from Ryder, or I bought it from Kroger, or, somebody like that. Got it at Arrow or wherever they got it. And they'll put a couple 100,000 miles on it, and then the truck starts acting up on the DPF side. And they get worried. I always tell them, no sweat. You've got a good truck, just with a dirty DPF. Get it cleaned. You'll be good to go. And they almost always are. So I would plan on getting the DOC and DPF cleaned in the next 100,000 miles or so. But other than that, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. I would recommend using, what I'm going to tell you, a good additive like Clean Air Fleet to keep the truck going like the Energizer Bunny. But other than standard maintenance, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. Go ahead and buy that truck with confidence. And I don't even know if I'd bother with a warranty on that, because your warranty is going to cost you $5,000. As long as everything's good, I don't know. That's kind of up to you. All right. Question number 9. One more to go, and then I'm going to focus on the TikTok people. From Greg Lisney1 from TikTok. Man, that's a good one. What happens when the SCR is completely melted? So what happens when the SCR is completely melted? Well, first, what I would do is I would cry a little. I would then question my life choices as to why I became a truck driver in the first place. Then maybe I would have a sip of bourbon or something strong. And okay, now that we have all that done, the number one question is, what in the holy hell melted your SCR? Figure that out first. Absolutely figure that out first, because you're not going to melt anything in the after treatment unless something goes incredibly sideways. Excuse me. So what did you do? Did you put diesel in the def tank? Did your truck lose a turbo and dump a bunch of oil into the exhaust, and that started on fire? Whatever the case, find and fix that problem first, and then determine if anything in your after treatment system can be saved, can be salvaged. If you need to replace the entire shebang, I'd recommend getting aftermarket TOC and DPF from a reputable company. I know a guy. And I would probably find an SCR used. SCRs generally hold up pretty well. I don't know if you're in Georgia or not, but there's some really good trucks, scrap yards with some good after treatment stuff. And then once you get everything is fixed, up in the upstream in the engine, whatever caused the problem in the first place, you should be good to go. But text me at 404-999-1361 if you want to talk more. And I do have some bourbon, so if that would help, let me know. All right. Question number 10, last but not least, absolutely not least. This is from our friend Gregory Leahy from TikTok. How many miles before a cleaning needs to be done? Holy cow! There's a TikTok guy. It just came in. Maple Creek Trucking. Don't go anywhere because I want to talk about that. Okay. So do you want to know what my DPF cleaning industry says, or do you want to know the truth? Our industry says clean the DPF every 150,000 miles. So, and while there's no harm in cleaning the DPF a bit more often than you may need to, I tell people what they should do is think about getting their DPF cleaned at 200,000 miles. Which means if you come and see me at 250 or 300,000 miles, you're usually fine. However, you can also just wait until your truck calls for its first parked regen, and that's when it's telling you that it wants to get the DPF cleaned in the next week or two. And of course, use a good additive like Clean Air Fleet, and you may be able to go, instead of 200,000 miles, go 500 to 600,000 miles between cleanings. I should probably stop recommending this additive because it's costing me money. But whatever you do, keep up with your maintenance, use a good motor oil, clean air, and a Clean Air Fleet additive. And you may only need to get your DPF cleaned, twice in your truck's lifespan, which is not a bad deal. All right, there you have it. Your questions, my answers. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If anybody needs to get a hold of me via text or call, I would recommend texting first. It's a better way to get a hold of me. Please do so at 404-999-1361. Remember to subscribe to the DPF Guys YouTube channel, like our Facebook page, and, of course, find us on TikTok. Okay, speaking of TikTok, let's take a look here. I melted the filters. Cummins said it was over 1,800 degrees, but couldn't figure out why. I mean, that just doesn't happen. And normally it's due to contamination somewhere. I mean, I normally only see something get that goofy where, either the DEF is overdosing ridiculously, or it's, the injectors are just dumping fuel into the system for some weird reason, or somebody put DEF in the diesel tank or diesel in the DEF tank. Maple Creek Trucking, I'm sorry for whatever happened there, but 1,800 degrees is enough to kind of melt not just the media, but to begin to actually turn that steel cherry red. In fact, Alexa, what's the melting temperature of steel? Okay, it's about 800 degrees less than actually melting the steel on that thing, but it's up there. And your engine's not going to crank out 1800 degrees unless something's really sideways. Whatever it is, I'd want to get that fixed before you burn your truck out. Brian Bond, are you still out there? I owe you a phone call, by the way. I've been working on getting my shed fixed. All right, I'm gonna check to see if we have any questions that came in. Oh, super cool. Hey Brian, thanks for your question here, or your comment. Many idle around 809 RPM. I think you can actually adjust your idle speed a bit too, and some people will do that. But sometimes you can't really win because you've got a truck with a PTO. You can't turn the idle up too high. Thank you, everybody who's joined here. Okay, this is a good one. So 2020 T680 Cummins engine, how much would it cost to clean the DEF filter? And keep the likes coming because it makes me feel good. And I like to feel good all the time, just like Kramer. So I've got a 2020 T680 with a Cummins engine. How much would it cost to clean the DPF filter? So you're looking at, as of today, October 20th, 2024, you're about $125 to clean that DOC, $295 to clean the DPF. That's $420. I may or may not have done that on purpose to clean both. And then you're going to need a couple of big gaskets and clamps. Those might be, I don't know, what's $75 a piece for those. Small gasket and clamp. You're for the cleaning, with all the parts and everything, you're probably in the $600 range. And then you need a mechanic, or don't need a mechanic. Someone needs to take that thing off. A mechanic would normally do it. It's not a big job to pull those things off. And I just need the DPF and DOC, not the SCR, unless the DPF is cracked and now there's soot in the SCR. If there's no soot in your tailpipe, your DPF is fine, just dirty. And you should be able to find a mechanic to pull that thing off and put it back on for somewhere in the $600, $800 range. And it's not just the remove and reinstallation, because anybody could do that. It's the you need to have someone hook up the computer and reset your soot levels. Otherwise, the process isn't complete. So what are you at? $1,500 all in, and then we'll get it cleaned well enough where it'll be like new. So however many miles you got on the truck to get to this point, you should be able to do the same thing again. If you use an additive like Clean Air Fleet, you might be able to go quite a bit further. So not bad. $420 for the cleaning, plus parts, plus labor to take it off and put it back on, whether you do that labor or someone else does. I hope that answers your question. Like I said, it's a 2020. It's gone 4 years. It should go another 4 years. Use additive, might go another 6 years. Get it so you're retired before you have to clean that DPF again. Man, melted the filters. That is crazy. Thank you for the, oh man, whoever sent me, someone sent me some cool stuff. Thank you very much. Yeah, so do not do that. I think I give your mechanic, I give the mechanic credit for trying, but that's a terrible idea. That'll gum up your DPF. Now it can be undone. You can bring me a DPF that's all full of degreaser and everything else, and I can get that stuff out of there as long as it hasn't been power washed. Power washer will eat that thing up. Okay. So here is Patrick. Good question. How do I feel about Pittsburgh Power Catalyst? I've been pushing the Clean Air Fleet additive, which is a competitor to Pittsburgh Power. But I feel good about it. I hear a lot of good things about it. People, it's easy to get. You can get it online. You can buy it at many, truck stops and places like that. where Clean Air Fleet is a little more rare. It's not as widely distributed at this point. We're working on it, but it's not as widely distributed. But so Pittsburgh Power is exclusively a fuel catalyst, and that's not a bad thing. Just know, kind of, you got to do compare and contrast here. So what Pittsburgh Power's job is to get your fuel to burn hotter and more completely. People will normally notice a increase in fuel economy, and a more complete burn of the fuel, which is why you're getting better fuel economy. It's burning more completely, more efficiently, will normally mean less soot to get in your DPF. Less soot means less ash, and that's what extends the life of the DPF. Now, one thing I will warn you about with Pittsburgh Power is a gallon of Clean Air Fleet costs $36.50. A gallon of Pittsburgh Power costs $230, $250, $280. But don't let that hang you up, because the actual cost per treated gallon of diesel is very similar. Pittsburgh Power might be, 8 cents and we're 9 cents, or they're 10 cents and we're 8 cents, whatever. Basically, a good additive is going to cost you about 10 cents per gallon of diesel fuel. And how you make the math work on that is, if you get a big enough bump in your fuel economy, it should offset the cost of the additive. And so what I was getting at is, yes, Pittsburgh Power is over $200 a gallon. Clean Air Fleet is $36.50 a gallon, but Clean Air Fleet will only treat 320 gallons of diesel, where Pittsburgh Power will treat, I looked it up, it's like 1,300 gallons. It's a lot. So the actual price per treated gallon is pretty much the same between both of them. So we're cheaper, but we're the same price. But the one thing you want to remember with Pittsburgh Power is it is strong stuff. Whatever it gives you for a dosing rate, don't exceed that. It's pretty powerful stuff. It's a powerful catalyst. And if you exceed the recommended dosing, you can damage your engine and your DPF. That the Clean Air Fleet uses different catalyzation, and you can overdose it. And while you would waste money by doing that, you wouldn't cause any damage. Now, the other thing is, the sole purpose of Pittsburgh Power is a fuel catalyst. It does that very, very well. Again, don't overdose it. Use it as directed. But then you still have, what do you do to demulsify the water, to drop the water out of the fuel? What do you do as an anti-gel? What do you do to be a cetane booster? What do you do to, I guess Pittsburgh Power would be classed as a cetane booster. What do you do to add lubricity back into the fuel that you lost when they lowered or eliminated to the point of almost not being there, and lowered the sulfur in the fuel? So Clean Air Fleet will do all of that, where Pittsburgh Power will just get you a cleaner burn. So if you want to get a bump in your fuel economy, which would offset the price of the additive, and then in turn, have your DPF last longer, and I have seen DPFs go much longer with Pittsburgh Power and Clean Air Fleet and Hot Shot Secret. I would say it's a good additive. It's a strong company and a strong additive. Just use it properly and understand that if you're going to go someplace cold, make sure you winterize your diesel with an anti-gel. Figure out some way to get some more lubricity in there with another additive. And in a perfect world, there'd be no water in the diesel, but we don't live in a perfect world. So having something that will drop the water out of the diesel, keep it out of your injectors and everything else, is important. So either use Pittsburgh Power plus a couple other things just to keep your truck running as well as possible, or use an additive like Clean Air Fleet that has everything in it. I hope that helps. I'm not going to talk smack about Pittsburgh Power. It's good people, good company, good additive. Just do not overdose yourself. You will, and there's no Narcan for your truck if you overdose your truck. Yeah, the differential pressure 6 PSI, that thing was a cork. Man, they tested the depth, the fuel, the oil, replaced the entire system. What the heck caused it, though? I mean, nothing's gonna. I tell you, man. I mean, I can't imagine that the truck would just decide to, to launch a volcano down the tailpipe and burn everything up. I never hear that without having something go really, really wrong. I mean, are you using some sort of additive? Is there something that, I mean, there's got to be some cause of this. I guess if it's some random thing that this isn't going to happen again, and you're okay. I've never heard of that before. That's a puzzler. And yes, 2009 Volkswagen TDI do clean the filters. We certainly do. And just need to get them taken off the car, and then we definitely get everything cleaned. Yeah, do you know any company that offers aftermarket exhaust parts for international? International with Max Force, international with a Cummins. But yes, I mean, we actually have aftermarkets for that. We don't have every single piece of aftermarket for international, but we got a lot of them. So, please, 404-999-1361, text us and let us know. So so Billy, what's the downfall for deleting a truck? Well, you make me sad. Other than that, don't get caught, and don't get your truck impounded, and they'll make you, they'll fine you and make you undo it, or they may not fine you, just make you undo it. But the number one, but don't worry, again, the odds, it's low risk, high impact. The odds of getting caught are quite small. Can't go to a dealership to get service anymore. You may not care about that. However, if you're doing long runs and your truck breaks down and you need to go to a dealership, you're in a strange town, you don't know the mechanics, you want to go to a dealership, you can't do that. Technically, you can't sell that truck because it doesn't comply with emissions. In theory, if you were to delete your truck, you should save all the parts so you can put everything back in when you want to sell it. And the deal is, you can't sell the truck. I mean, if it's deleted. Now, again, some people do. Now, what will happen is you might actually say, well, geez, a deleted truck is actually, someone's going to want to buy that because it's deleted. But what's going to happen when they get caught is they'll just go, well, I didn't know it was deleted. Why would they take the fall for you? It's going to go back to you, and then you still get the fine, and then you either have to give him his money back and buy the truck back, or you've got to fix it. So I would kind of watch out for that. Just be aware of all these things. And if you've got a delete guy that you just trust with your life, and a person that will provide you a warranty and a written warranty that you can come back with, you're probably pretty good. But keep in mind that when you do a delete, you pay the guy, you give him a big stack of cash, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and he gives you a handwritten receipt that says exhaust services. And if you need to come back and get any work done on that truck, he'll say, I don't know who you are. So, I mean, as long as you understand all the risks, okay, go ahead. But don't do it without, really understanding that there are some risks to it. And one of the biggest risks is some trucks delete really well. And some people know how to delete that truck, and it's just rock solid. Other trucks don't like being deleted, and their turbos will overspin, or they'll have a cylinder or two that overheat. And the biggest thing is, I have to ask you, is why are you deleting in the first place? If you're deleting because you just simply, your truck is running great, but you want to avoid potential issues in the future. But if your truck is running poorly, and the symptom of that poor, that the way that the truck is running, it's my truck is running poorly, it's plugging up my DPF, it's giving me a bunch of problems with my after treatment. Deleting the after treatment is just treating the symptom. You'd want to make sure the engine's good. So you'd want to know, all the consequences of deleting it and being okay with those. And then also, why are you deleting it? Because if you're saying, man, my truck has been in the shop, 5 times in the last 6 months with after treatment issues, it's very, 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 very likely that you have an upstream issue, something with the engine. And, while deleting it may resolve the symptom, the problem is still there, which is why all too many trucks that get deletes are often getting engine rebuild within 3 to 6 months. Not all of them, Because I know someone's going to say, hey, I've been driving a deleted truck for 10 years. It's great. Not all of them, but you're rolling the dice. And, just so you know. All right. Oh, yeah, Jay Flax. Heck yes, you can ask a question. I'm not sure if I'll have a good answer for it. Yes, ask me a question. I'm gonna have a sip of chicken soup here. By the way, if you don't follow me, please do. Michelle, I'll get to you in a second here. Let me sip my soup.
A few moments later.
All right. Jay Flax, if you ask the question, I'll be more than happy to answer you. Michelle, I'm having to change out my inlet knock sensor for the third time in 1 year. Am I missing something? I guess I would ask, are they putting in reman knock sensors or brand new? And then I would also ask if they're aftermarket or OEM. We sell a very good aftermarket knock sensor, but it's version 2.0 of that knock sensor. And the version before the 2.0 release they had was problematic. Also, NOx sensors are actually like little light bulbs inside. There's elements and zirconium mineral and that sort of stuff. And they're brittle. And if they get dropped or treated roughly at any point in, while they're traveling from Mexico or Germany or where those things are made, that will shorten their lifespan. Do you remember when you'd have hey Jay, I'll get to you in a second. Do you remember when halogen light bulbs, if you ever touched the glass before you put the bulb in, that bulb would burn out in a matter of days or weeks or whatever? Same thing with the NOx sensor. So a NOx sensor does not like any NOx, meaning KNO, whatever that is. But you just might have gotten bad ones. I don't know. So I would make sure that you've got OEM. I would make sure that you've got new OEM, and make sure you save your receipt, because there should be a warranty on that baby. And I guess is it literally a NOx sensor failure? I would, they put the new NOx sensor in, and then the truck is just dandy for a while and then acts up again. Or is the NOx sensor? Well, I guess it is. I guess it's good for a few months. Or is it possible you have an electrical issue, a short someplace that's sporadic? But it's very possible that you just need to make sure you're using OEM, and make sure you're using new OEM, and make sure that nobody's whacking that NOx sensor on anything they shouldn't be whacking it on, and possibly shortening its lifespan. I know those NOx sensors aren't cheap, and they should last a lot longer than what your experience is, Michelle. I hope that helps. Okay. Jay Flax, thank you for asking. If you could ask a question, but you can always ask a question. I love getting questions. And Jay, if you're not following me, what the hell's your problem? Get with it. I've had my whole DPF system redone. I still get a code that shows up. Oh my goodness. I guess, Jay, tell me what kind of truck you have, and I'm going to Google that code. Hang on a second here. Hold, please. All right, what do I got here? Oh, so you got it. Let's see. Did you tell me what truck you have? Thank you for following me. (2012) Cascadia Cummins motor. I am thinking. Can I
get a radio check, please?
I am thinking that you may have one of the SCRs that was involved in the Cummins recall. Jay, what I would do tomorrow is take your VIN and your ESN, your engine serial number, your ESN, which is on side of your engine, and your VIN, and contact. Hang on a second, I gotta tell TikTok that I'm alive. All right.
Daddy, chill.
That's what I'm saying to TikTok. So 2012 Freightliner Cascadia Cummins motor 40. So call Cummins with your ESN and ask them if you qualify for the SCR recall. I strongly suspect that you might have an SCR that's under recall, and see if they'll replace it. Let me know if that works. That's my hunch. And I could be wrong. Hang on a second. I'm trying to think of what would I say here. And if I am wrong, what else I got here? Well, like I said, call. This is gonna be a good one. Call Cummins and give them your ESN and your VIN. Ask about the SCR recall, because
they've done studies. 60% of the time it works every time.
There you go. No, I don't know if that's actually working. I don't know if you can hear that or not. I can hear it. I find it very amusing. Okay. Yeah, I would call Cummins, see if you can get that that SCR replaced. Good evening. So this is a good one. What was your conclusion on the engine cleaner a few months back? You talking about the hydrogen injection from while I could actually watch the diagnostics while they're running it, and the turbo speed would increase. I have not on the DPF side. We actually did a carbon cleaning and then pulled the DPF, and it didn't touch the DPF. I mean, it's just by the time the exhaust gets that far, all the hydrogen would be out of it. I will tell you that the company is super nice. They have a lot of faith in their technology. I know that like I said, I was watching the diagnostics, and the turbo speed would increase. It would do but it seemed to impact more. I would like more up in the valves, maybe in the turbo. I don't think that the hydrogen treatment of the engine will have much impact on the after treatment, mainly because this thing is so far away, and that even if the hydrogen was working, it just would all be expelled. It would all be used up by the time it made to the exhaust. But it appears to have an impact on the turbo, and I would imagine on the valves. Any place that the exhaust would pass, that there'd be carbon buildup. Hopefully that would actually knock it out. And maybe the reason that we even saw a little bit of extra carbon in the DPF was the carbon that was coming from the engine. So I would give it a try, but I do not. In my experience, I have not seen that it has much impact on the DPF. Really, the only thing you can do when your DPF is, hey Ronnie, Ronnie, good to hear from you, man. But I mean, it doesn't seem to have much impact on the DPF, which doesn't surprise me. Like I said, the DPF is way on the other side of the world as far as your fuel system is. By the time the exhaust gets down there, there's not much left in it other than soot and ash. And the DPF is really kind of like a vacuum cleaner bag. You can beat on it all you want, but sometimes you just have to empty it. I'm not sure how many people actually have vacuum cleaner bags anymore, because everyone's got Dysons and similar. But anyway, yeah. So see, there you go. So that's what kind of, Ronnie, that's what I'm experiencing, which is I don't think it really touches the DPF, but I from looking at the diagnostics, it really does appear to have an effect on the engine. So I think what you do is kind of a threefold thing. Get the hydrogen cleaning done, clean your DPF when it needs to get cleaned, and then run a good additive like Clean Air Fleet, and then see about just it should keep your truck running good. Now I've got a question here, which is this is one I get about every 3 minutes, and it is why is it that the government makes us use DPF yet they don't have it on any of their own equipment? And that is simply untrue. It's a common misconception, and I did a bunch of reading on this because I keep getting the same question. And yes, if vehicles classified as military vehicles do not have them, and yes, you might have maybe there's a Ford F-350 that's on a Air Force base somewhere in Idaho that's never going to be deployed to the Middle East, but guess what? They burn off-road diesel with no tax, and they don't have emissions on it. I get it, but every other government vehicle is supposed to have emissions. So, and you can be like, well, but the president's limousine's got a diesel engine and it doesn't have emissions. I'm like, oh, for crap's sake, really? Are you going to tell me that just because the president's limousine doesn't have a DPF on it, you should be able to saw years off? It doesn't work that way. I used to be in a business that did a lot of government procurement stuff. And guess what? The government can actually buy black tar heroin. It can buy plutonium. It can buy, smallpox virus. You can't. So there's a difference there. And there is actually statute in place that allows for tactical and vehicles involved in national defense to not have to have emissions. You're right. But also, those vehicles are often not required to have any of the safety features that you have to deal with as well. So rest assured, the government does need to use DPF just like you do, with some very narrow exceptions. That also means that, municipalities with fire trucks and ambulances and snowplows and bulldozers and all of that stuff, that would still have the same emissions on it. Now, just to be completely transparent, yes, they do make exceptions where you can bypass a D rate. They do make exceptions in states that have idle restrictions where a fire truck is allowed to idle because it's still got to run the pumps and everything like that. A ambulance is allowed to idle because they have to keep the equipment running to keep people alive. And yes, back in the bad old days when they were forcing people to retrofit diesel emissions, stuff on fire trucks and things like that. That was they were to retrofit diesel emissions on vehicles. They did make it so that ambulances and fire trucks could be exempt. And yes, someone's going to say, I saw a YouTube video where a guy said that this wasn't like, I'm like, I saw a YouTube video where the earth was flat. I saw a YouTube video where aliens anal probed Queen Elizabeth. It doesn't matter. So the government does have to use DPF. And yes, there are probably thousands upon thousands of vehicles that do not have DPF because they're classified as tactical or national security. And yes, there's probably some dudes, driving through the gate of Warner Robins right now and going to cruise down to Buc-ee's to go get a delicious brisket sandwich, and they're driving a vehicle with no emissions on it. But they, just because some Air Force vehicles or some maintenance trucks don't have to have DPFs on them that are run by the military doesn't mean that you're allowed to not have them. It's just the way it works. Now, if you're really, if you're taking this seriously and you believe that you've seen government vehicles that don't have emissions on them, that should have emissions on them, write your congressman, report them to the EPA, do something about it. Because if you think government vehicles just automatically don't have DPF, you're mistaken, understandably, because it's easy to believe that the government gets away with everything, with a lot, but not everything. And if you see, a fire truck with a brand new fire truck with no DPF on it, or an ambulance that's been deleted, let someone know about it, or don't. But it doesn't mean you can delete yours, sadly. All right, let's see here. Jack, your ambulance probably is either pre-emissions or it's been deleted. Fire trucks were exempt from, how that works is fire trucks were exempt from the retrofit. They're not exempt from emissions anymore. All right, what else we got here? Yeah, I mean, I've done hundreds of ambulances with DPFs on them. So, man, I wouldn't want someone to check my hard drive, if you know what I mean. Okay, any questions coming in here? No one's coming in from, no new questions from YouTube or Facebook or anywhere else. I'll tell you what, it's been fun. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for watching. I'm hungry. I'm gonna get something to eat. Please, if you're not subscribed or following me on TikTok, do so, because you'll find me entertaining, informative, or potentially annoying. But I always love getting your comments and your questions. And thank you very much, everybody on YouTube who might be following me or watching me right now. If you jump over to YouTube/DPF Guys, and definitely check us out, because I don't want you to miss a single thing. And I am, I am not the smartest guy in the room, but which is great, because I learned so much from all of you. And I appreciate all of that so much. So thank you so much. And hang on a second, what else? Oh, well, see, here's the thing. Okay, this is, but if they properly maintain them, they will not be down. Until we got to Atlanta, literally 30% of the fire equipment was offline because of DPF issues. And I think we've gotten that down to practically 0%. So that is a big win. So I just think a lot of people aren't fully familiar with how to keep these things running. And having a good fuel additive would be really helpful as well. All right, one more thing. So what do you got? One more here. We got Flying Brian. You earned a pin here. Curious about fuel additives or just catalysts? Just catalysts. Well, SCR. Absolutely. The fuel additive will help the SCR, because a good fuel additive will reduce the amount of NOx, and so you use less DEF, and the SCR will foul up less quickly. But 100%, because especially on the ones without SCR, they're probably a bit older, and a fuel additive like Clean Air Fleet, which will offer you catalyst functionality, but also will give you the lubricity to keep those, keep that old girl running better. Will get all that gunk out of that engine, which is built up over time. Will demulsify, drop the water out of the fuel, and get the fuel to burn cleaner to keep that DPF clean as long as possible. So, Clean Air Fleet, baby. Ronnie, I appreciate you too, man. This is you are the shizzle. Big Dano, welcome a bug, Flying Brian. Okay, all that stuff. So, all right, guys, I'm going to say bye-bye to TikTok, and I do appreciate, all the time you spent with me. Thank you so much. Of course, 404-999-1361 is our number. Text us or send me a comment or a message, and I would love to help you out more. And definitely, if you're not following me, what the heck's wrong with you? Definitely follow me. And everybody on YouTube, thanks for watching, and Facebook, everything else, Twitch. You're all awesome. Appreciate your your help and support, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, everybody. All right, let's wrap up this live, folks. Hang on a second. Okay, thanks for watching. Make sure if you don't subscribe to our channel, you do that. Like, follow, share, all that good stuff. And I will see you all next week.
We got the tools, the skills, the might to get your truck rolling clean into the night. Throttle up, feel that clean airflow. Our service so slick, your ride seals the show. DPF Guys, we got the fit so fine. Hit the road with confidence, now the world's your shrine. Bring in that rig, let's get on track. Breathe easy with no sooty black.